This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. How you feeling, baby? You feeling good?
I'm good, O. How you feeling?
Excellent. Looking forward to this game. Let's see if they get it done. First of all, let's get through some myths because some of them are being created and they're not true, and then all that stuff. First of all, the NFL, that stadium has a roof. They're not going to go all the way to Germany and then end up in a monsoon and it ruins the only game that they have there, right? So if it rains, I would imagine they're going to cover the field, right? The pitch.
It's a retractable roof for the stadium. I don't know the plans. I do know the original plan was for it to be open. I don't know what it requires for the weather. But yeah, your assumption is my assumption. I don't know for sure. One thing I would say, and I've heard this in the past, because the stadium is built for soccer, there are certain rules that the European folks have for NFL folks. Like, for example, in the London games, I was told they were not allowed to use their grass field to play on or practice on when they practiced, I think, the second game, because they just were not allowed. So they had to play on turf. This one is a hybrid field from what I understand, mostly grass, a little bit of turf. And so the conditioning should be better. But yeah, my assumption is the same as yours. If there is rain or significant weather, then it would make sense to close the roof. Yeah.
Dude, you know how many people are spending a crap ton of money. That game's sold out in 2 minutes.
Right.
You got a lot of corporate people tied to that game. They're not going to want them wet. They're going to want them to enjoy themselves. So they will put the roof on. It will not be, the elements won't be a factor. So I wouldn't worry about that. And then here's number two. And, I love Mike McDaniel, right? But, child psychology works with children. It doesn't really work with adults. At least it's not supposed to, okay? It might work with Trump's sons. Those guys aren't very smart. Child psychology might work with them. But in general, when Mike McDaniel's standing up in the podium saying, well, if we win the game, we're going to the Super Bowl. And if we lose, we can't beat good teams. None of it matters. We still have a whole half season. No, it all matters, Mike. Okay. I hope your players aren't believing any of that. Okay. And I hope fans aren't believing any of that crap either. This game matters. It's not just about standings. It's not about a conference game. It's not about any of that. It's about personally for yourself. You need to start beating these kind of teams because that's the only way it sets it up for you to win in the playoffs. Because, dude, I've been following this team for half a century.
Yeah.
I remember with Shula, we didn't have back then. None of those kind of games were called a test.
Right.
You know what? The Dolphins were the test.
Mm-hmm.
They were the standard, along with whatever was the elite in those moments, Pittsburgh, Washington, whatever, around the league back then, San Francisco, whatever. And Miami hasn't been in that territory with Kansas City, with Philadelphia, with Buffalo, with San Francisco. All these kind of teams that they are the elite. Back then, you didn't look at those games that way. You looked at them like Miami was going to beat you, period. It didn't matter what opponent it was. And so to me, I love how he plays that child psychology stuff. But I would hope, and you're in the locker rooms, I would hope that the players aren't buying that and saying, no, we got to start winning these kind of games.
So the players, I would say, I think what Mike McDaniel is doing, I think it's less child psychology and more the reality of we're in a social media environment. And I think that he's embracing the reality that his players are going to be watching NFL Network, ESPN, Fox Sports this week and seeing that narrative before and after. And so you're preparing them for this is what they're going to say about you. Not that you should believe it, but this is what you should say about you. And the reality is he doesn't want them to go too high or too low. What traditionally happens for players is they are going to treat this like this is their Super Bowl. They're playing the Kansas City Chiefs on national TV, NFL Network, 9:30, and they have been told all season they only beat up on cupcakes. And so they have something to prove. And Tyreek Hill's return to his former team. They are going to treat this. And so I think what Mike McDaniel is to prevent them from getting too angsty, getting too high, having too much emotion to where it affects their play. Now, will it work? I don't know. But I think this is a coaching, like he is trying to coach through the media, essentially. He's trying to coach through the media. And I'm sure he tells them the same thing, but coaching through the media of this is just the same game. It's the same mantra. It's the same thing he told the team when they were playing the Giants and the Panthers. Don't treat this like you're going to walk over them. It's just as important as last week. The players knew the Panthers weren't just as important or just as good of an opponent. And that's probably why they went down 14-0. And so it's a part of this is coaching, trying to keep your guys steady when you know the external factors and the enormity of the game will raise them.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I understand all of that. But deep down inside, they got to know. And it's also about compartmentalizing that part of it. If you win, yeah, you've passed the test. That doesn't mean that you've, won the Super Bowl or anything. But it means now that you can actually look in the mirror and say, now I've got confidence in myself and in our team in those situations. You lose again to Kansas City, you're going to go back and say, well, our 3 losses are Bills, Eagles, and Kansas City. The 3 best teams that we've played on our schedule are the 3 teams we lost to. And that's the reality. So in the end, it's not that you've arrived, but you can't arrive without starting to, actually get to the party. And by beating Kansas City, you're now entering the party. Haven't arrived yet, but you're entering the party at least. And
I guess the point, and I'm with you. I want to see them like the reality is, even if you're a Dolphins fan who's the biggest believer in them, you still had that question until you do it. You like the narrative. You can say it's a narrative all you want, but the reality is, if you look at the stats, the Dolphins are 6-0 against teams 500 or lower this year, scoring 39 points a game. They're 0-2, scoring 18.5 points a game in the 2 games for teams above 500. Now, they can only play what their schedule gives them. But as far as their schedule, they have not beat a winning team yet. And so it's not just a narrative. It's simply a fact. They have not beat a winning team on their schedule. And so there will always be questions of how good this team truly is until they do it. And so I'm not saying if they lose this game, it's like, oh, well, throw them to the trash. They're not going to win it. This is the end of the season. But it is another opportunity to squash that. And whether players admit it or not, it'll be for their own comfort too. Like these guys are confident, but like they have to visually see it. They know, like I told you, I talked to players in the locker room a few weeks ago who were like, yeah, it's great to beat the Giants and Panthers, but I want to do it against a good team, a really good team. And so it's confirmation. It's confirmation.
I'll give you a great example. Tua Tagovailoa.
Mm-hmm.
Flo beat his ass up so much that he had to look in the mirror and say, bro, do I suck this badly?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. It's like guys are looking at each other like, we really can't beat these kind of teams.
Right.
So you got to get through that threshold, because at one point or another, we all question ourselves about anything and everything in life.
Absolutely.
There's a down moment in our jobs, in our relationships, in our games, in our softball league, in our pickleball, whatever it is. And at that moment, you're questioning yourself. You're questioning your relationship. You and your wife or girlfriend, you had a fight. And you're like, wow, are we in a tough place? And then, a week later, it's like water under the bridge. You go by and you're stronger than ever. And I think that's the same thing with Tua. It was like, bro, everybody's telling me I'm bad. I got this guy that doesn't want me around. Am I really that bad? And then in comes McDaniel. Now hey, this is who I am.
Right.
Now I'm all right. And it's kind of the same thing for the Dolphins. You're getting beat up from all over the place, and you're not crossing that threshold. At one point or another, even though Bradley Chubb, we tell him, hey, you're stealing money without a gun and a mask. He's like, no, dude, I know I'm a good player. And the first couple of games were hairy. Look at Bradley Chubb now the last few weeks, right? All of a sudden now he's playing a lot better. Bradley Chubb knew that he could play that way, but early on he wasn't, and he didn't cross that threshold. Looks like he's starting to cross that threshold. We all need it, bro. It's human nature. We got to have that success to kind of prove to ourselves that our relationship or our world or our jobs or that game means something and we're moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a measuring stick. That's the word that has been used to me by several players. It's a measuring stick. It does not define you, but it measures you compared to the other elite teams. And, you know, they could lose every game and then get to the playoffs and start to win. But the reality is a lot of times you got to see it to truly do it. And so this is just another marker in that. I don't buy that because it's the Chiefs and because it's the champs and Tyreek Hill, it's more. But I do feel like it's because it's an elite team on a prime time and climate. That's why it's more. And so we're going to see how the Dolphins do. I will tell you this, they are healthier than they've been probably since week 1. They should get Xavier Howard back. Javon Holland's definitely back to pair with Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. And so you have your starting secondary for the first time all season. They should get Teron Armstead back at left tackle. It sounds like Connor Williams is trending towards playing as well. And so you're not going to have Rob Hunt, but you're going to have Teron Armstead and Connor Williams back. And this is close to the core of your team. Like you'll get Devon Achane back after the bye. But this is close to the core of your team taking on the core of the Chiefs. And so I think they can swing with them. And the Dolphins are going to find out if they can.
I can too. Listen, I'll give you an example for me that I went through 20-something years ago. And you've been in this business long enough. Yep. You know, you work in most markets. Let's be honest now, okay? Most radio people, they break wind. They don't break any stories, right? You know that, right? Yep. You know that. Local media doesn't really do it. TV or radio, they don't do anything. They don't break shit. It's writers and national people. Am I right or am I wrong?
It depends, but yeah.
95% of the time, okay? Mm-hmm. We have some local people in different markets that end up breaking stories, and they actually... So I was pissed. I was like, fuck. You know, Cam Wolfe isn't better than me, or Armando Salguero or Jason Cole. And I'm sitting there, and I look around at all the other people working electronic. They don't break shit. Right. And I go, I got to do something. So I started paying my way to the Combine, the Senior Bowl, the East-West Shrine Game, the Las Vegas Football Classic. I started paying my way to go, and the station wouldn't, because that's the reason why. Right. TV, radio number, because they don't invest anything into their people. You know what I mean? So I said, that I'm investing in myself. I went, I got to know scouts and coaches and general managers and personnel directors. And then I started breaking stories all the time, like I still do now to this day. And that's because, you know, at one point or another, you have to cross that threshold. You have to feel like I can compete against that guy. I can get the same kind of information, but you're not going to get it sitting at home doing a show from some studio, and then you can't call scouts like that. You got to be in front of them. You know how it is. You know what I'm talking about. Absolutely. And that we all need that. We all need that. But you have to do it yourself. Nobody's going to hand it to you. And that's why this weekend to me is incredibly important. And here's the thing. Let's finish it with this. They're ready for it now. They weren't ready the first 2 go-arounds. If we look at it, they weren't healthy enough. They didn't know the defense. David Long is playing better now. Okay. Chubb, we just talked about, is playing better now. You are now you got Ramsey back now. Now you're getting X back. You're getting Holland back. You're getting healthier now. I think you're better suited to win this game right now than you were, because the Philadelphia game, after we watched the tape and everything, we go, well, wait a minute, dude. That game wasn't as bad as it might have looked to you. That game was actually a pretty good defensive performance. But we didn't want to take the Giants and we didn't want to take the Carolina game serious because it's the Giants in Carolina. But if you're honest with yourself, the defense started to improve there also without the slow starts.
Right.
And then you've got your performance against, the Patriots. I think they're now better suited than they have been the entire year to win this kind of game before the Philly and the Buffalo game. Do you agree or disagree?
I definitely think they're in better position. First of all, they're not on the road. That question will still have to wait towards another time. And so that should help their pre-snap communications. I think the fact that their secondary is healthy is such a huge key, because whether X or whether Ramsey, this is a Chiefs team that if you can play good secondary ball like the Broncos did last week, then you got a chance of slowing them down. And then I do believe that mentality-wise, they understand the responsibility they have ahead of them, and they might have been a little shell-shocked at the moment in Buffalo or shell-shocked at the moment in Philadelphia. I think they'll be ready. Just kind of hearing from where they are. The biggest thing that would shock me on Sunday is if they were just completely exposed. That would shock me. Like, it would just be a shock. Given, like, I could lose. I could certainly see them losing. I could certainly see them winning. But it would shock me completely if they were essentially caught with their pants down just from what I've seen and where they are. I think they're beyond that stage of where they were in Buffalo, where they were completely outclassed. But we will see Sunday, NFL Network.
What's a prediction?
I'll tell you this. I have to see them beat an elite team before I can truly pick them. I'm sorry I got to take that stance, but I got to see it. I believe they can, and I would not surprise me if they did. But I don't want to be a homer here just because I cover the Dolphins and I see them the most. Right now, the knock against them is a very valid knock. And so I think 28-27 Chiefs.
Yeah. All right. You got it. I've lost the first two. I'm going to pick them again. I think they're ready finally to cross this threshold. This team is too good, man. This team is too loaded. They've got some talent. I think they can get it done. We'll see. We'll have some fun.
One thing I am sure of, I think Tyreek's going off, win or lose. I can't imagine him have a quiet game against his former team.
For sure. And by the way, you agree with me? I'd bracket Cater and Holland on Kelce. Leave the two guys on the island. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of what now we're going to see what Fangio can do.
Right.
When he two island guys. Baby, now we got the island music going on, man.
And he did say, and I'll talk about this a little bit. I'm on the Insiders at 12. I got to get dressed. Vic Fangio did say there's other parts of his scheme that have yet to be unlocked that he plans to unlock with Ramsey. Now, I know he did mention that Ramsey could see some time on Kelce, and maybe on a specific situation or two, a third down that you need on a play. But I don't imagine it's more than a few plays. The reality is Travis Kelce is tough for anyone, but I'm not putting Travis Kelce on my top corner who just came back from a knee surgery a week ago. Travis Kelce's game is off of improv, cutting back and forth, just doing zigzags around the field. I don't want Jalen Ramsey run through an obstacle course.
I actually think Cater's the perfect guy to get physical with his ass right at the line.
Yeah.
And then have Holland pick him up right after.
Right.
Bracket his ass, dude. I think now I know Cater gets a little handsy.
Yeah.
But
you got to be handsy. You got to be handsy against a Kelce because he's going to be handsy and physical. He does. And the other thing about the Ramsey Kelce thing is Ramsey's best skill set. I won't say his best. One of his best skill sets is his ability to watch film, to read defenses and bait them into throws. Kelce's a rule breaker because he does not run the route that he's taught to run a lot of times. A lot of times the route will be a slide, and all of a sudden you'll see Kelce in the back corner and end zone, and you're like, what are you doing? And the chemistry that Mahomes and Kelce have just allows them to do that special thing. And so, whether it's Cater as the underneath receiver, they have had Jerome Baker a lot of times on tight ends, but this is a different tight end. And so maybe we see some Javon Holland and Baker. Maybe we see some Cater and Holland. Either way, Kelce is the one to stop, and I think he's going to get definitely a lot of double coverage on Sunday.
Hell yeah. All right, follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe and catch his exceptional work there at the NFL Network, even on at noon with the Insiders. Cam, as always, appreciate you, my brother. Have a fantastic weekend.
Okay, you too. Sounds good.
Thank you, sir. KSDT CPAs, the best in the business, baby. By the way, if you're looking for work, they're hiring Dade, Broward, Palm Beach counties, and we've got a new office in North Carolina. So if your business, if your personal taxes, and, you know, for business, sometimes you kind of need that guidance all throughout the year, and they offer so much, folks. Year-end tax planning, payroll, sales, and by the way, state and local tax consulting. They can help you in so many different ways. That's why you want to call the folks at KSDT CPAs, 305-670-3370. Tax, advisory, assurance, accounting. They do it all. KSDT CPAs.